Legend here, and today we've got a rating your Doomstack video covering an Imrik dragon spam army, where he's got his 5 unique dragons, and a noble called Frugal, so that must be his trait, and we've got a life wizard in there. Alright, we're up against Tretch Craventail at Hotek's column. It looks like he's got Warp Bomb as well, which actually is bad for them in this situation. And it's 2 full stacks. So let's jump in here and see how it performs. Now, in this particular situation, attacking settlements, dragons are really good. Because if you're attacking a certain area and it's not going great, you can just pull back beyond the walls and have some time to heal. Dragons will have probably a harder time on the field battles than they will in a siege. Another thing is that Skaven are notoriously bad at dealing with dragons. Dragons and phoenixes specifically. Especially if they don't have like loads of rattling guns. Which they've got a few, but they don't have loads of them. So they definitely could have picked like a stronger enemy. Usually Dark Elves would have been a better one for like a real test. Because Dark Elves are pretty good at taking out dragons. Just due to all the armor-piercing missiles and just armor-piercing that they've got. And anti-large. And also, Skaven settlements all seem to be this settlement type here. Which is super easy to deal with if you just put all your troops right here. But, since I've used this kind of army before, having played an Imrik campaign, this does seem to be the go-to army for Imrik. I could talk about its strengths and weaknesses just from my personal experiences. But in a siege situation where this is really going to thrive, I anticipate this is going to be a pretty one-sided battle. Now, you don't need to put the Frugal Noble in a Imrik army, because he already reduces the upkeep cost by a significant amount, and even if you are playing on legendary difficulty and the upkeep costs start going through the roof, the High Elves are super rich in the late campaign if you're playing them right. So, I usually do put a Frugal Noble in, but you don't need it. There might be something better for like extra charge bonus or something for him, but again, not necessary. Anyway, let's go kill some rats. Now, since we're playing as Knights of Caledor, we do also get quite a lot of extra dragon breaths. But again, we don't need to do that. That's another thing that makes the dragon stacks really good against sieges, is because their breath attacks are best used against the walls. Because the angle's really good for them. And dragons and just flying units in general fight really well on walls. Or if they're not even going to man the walls, we'll just go down there. But yeah, it's important to keep them together. I don't really need to use the eagle, I think. So they're already started popping down a warp bomb. That's fine, it blows up their own unit, doesn't really do much damage to single entities. Very strong army here. Like I said, this is probably a bit too easy for it. But you know, this is 2 full stacks. And most high elf armies, especially if it's missile based, would actually have a really hard time taking Hotek's column in this particular situation, just due to all the warp bombs. And we just don't need to put any serious effort into this as well. Just don't need to put any serious effort in. They'll probably dodge that. So the Life Wizard being in an Imrik Dragon army, I would say, is absolutely essential. So he did the right thing there. Yeah, Life Magic complements dragons, or just single entity monsters in general, so much, just because it's unable to revive like multiple entity units from death, such as archers. Like if an archer unit dies, Life Magic can't bring it back to life. But single entities, they don't have that problem unless they go down to 0 hit points. So as long as you keep them above that, it's all good. And it's got some okay buff magics in there. I don't mind Shield of Thorns, it's not bad. It's cheap. Didn't seem to have a whole lot of reserves, but I just don't think we need it in this battle. There's not much to worry about. They're just ripping through everything. Dragons are really good against Skaven. Even if they brought in like a ton of Hell Pit Abominations, dragons will still beat the crap out of them. The Skaven are largely best at dealing with infantry-based armies. They're probably the best anti-infantry forces in the game. But they're not very good at dealing with single entities, flying single entities. They've only really got one tool at dealing with them, which is to use a Warlock Engineer to use Howling Warp Gale and just rattling gun the crap out of it. If they don't have that, then they're fucked. In this situation.
My power is yours.
Alright, we can just go straight into the town square now. Finish this off, and then I'll talk about the strengths and weaknesses of what I would rate this army. Because, yeah, this was not a difficult battle. Anybody could have done this with absolute ease. Don't even need the healing, it's just to keep them in good shape. Get a decisive victory instead of a close victory. Hopefully. And just a little bit more. Okay, out of range now. And the battle difficulty is on very hard. Yep, it is. The campaign, I think, is on hard difficulty. So I'll evaluate that in a moment. Okay, yeah. This was always going to be an easy fight. It's like the ideal high elf army for dealing with the Skaven sieges, because they just can't do anything about it. And when I go up against dragons and phoenixes when I'm playing a Skaven, I usually shit my pants. Like, metaphorically speaking, not literally. And then, of course, after the battle's over and things are running away, you can continue to, improve their health just a little bit if you need to, which we don't need to in this situation, so we'll move on. Now, under normal circumstances, getting a full dragon army is very expensive. For the high elves, though, if you're playing in the late campaign and you're doing the entrepreneur spams, then the cost of any one of your armies is not really that big of a concern. I'm talking like turn 150 onwards. Dragon spamming is not that big of a deal. But Imrik does reduce the cost of dragons by quite a lot. And these other specialist dragons are quite significantly stronger than their type counterpart. So, for example, there's one of each type of elf dragon here. You got a black dragon, forest dragon, sun dragon, moon dragon. Oh, sorry, sun dragon, moon dragon, star dragon. And so this one here will have the same upkeep cost as the star dragons, but these ones here will be cheaper. But they're all at least as strong as a regular star dragon, I think. I didn't have to use any dragon breath; just wasn't needed in this battle.
Calador's need is great.
Alright, so let's talk about it. Playing as Imrik, this is definitely the army that you should eventually go for, and it's very important to have somebody on the ground, because otherwise you're just going to take massive leadership penalties. But at the same time, if you don't have someone on the ground, then all you have to do is get into melee before the first one routes. Once they go into melee, it'll stop that leadership penalty from applying. But at the same time, definitely put a life wizard in there. But this one here, reducing the upkeep cost of the army is not essential. Now we have to also keep in mind that because it's playing on hard difficulty here, the cost of this army is going to be significantly cheaper than if it was playing on very hard or legendary. So I'm not really going to take the fact that it's a little bit, well, it's a lot cheaper than what I would have on a legendary difficulty campaign, into too much consideration. Like that is cheap, but you know, the supply lines, it's very different on different difficulties. And I usually want to rate these as if it was on Legendary. But, you know, I can just assume it probably cost about, if I had to guess, around 8,000 based on 7 armies. Yeah, probably cost about 8,000 on Legendary difficulty for the whole thing. So twice as expensive, I think. That's just a guess, though. Anyway, strengths and weakness of this army. Field battles can be a really big problem for them, especially going up against Dark Elves. But siege battles, doesn't matter what you're going up against. Sieges are super easy for this army, super strong against that. Now, this army here can certainly handle, like, 4 full stacks of Dark Elves on a field battle, but you have to be very careful. Basically, go in, fight a little bit, and then pull out, heal, then go back in. Trying to use magic as much as possible, specifically on, like, Dark Shards and Shades. Those are the biggest problem. Dragons, while they do have a lot of missile resistance, because they're such a big target, archers are really accurate against them, so you'll find yourself, even with a lot of resistances, you're going up against, say, Empire Archers. Empire Archers shooting at you doing 1 damage, essentially, per shot, but because they're getting, like, 100% accuracy, because they're so big and slow, it still does a lot of damage. Biggest weaknesses of dragons. This is the big advantage of having phoenixes over dragons, because of the animation of a phoenix, and also the size of it. Missile units actually have a really hard time hitting them, so not only are they quite resilient, but say a dragon, like 90% of the arrows will hit them, but with a phoenix it's like 20%. It's really low because they get disrupted and they move around a lot, and it's really just hard for archers to hit them. So they take a lot less damage. They're a lot more durable against missile units than dragons. Overall, I'd probably rate this army, yeah, I'm gonna give it like 10 out of 10 for a Knights of Caledor campaign. This is the army that you should get. It's not expensive. It's not super inconvenient to recruit. You're sort of guided towards getting these anyway. This is all the right stuff. So, yeah, 10 out of 10 for Imrik. For other dragon riders, you know, of the High Elves, I'd probably rate it 9 out of 10, just because it starts to get a little bit expensive and takes a long time to recruit, and it does have some weaknesses, and there are definitely stronger armies that you can build with hero-based armies, but with Imrik, this is a 10 out of 10 army. Just be very careful about going into field battles with lots of armor-piercing missiles, so be careful about dwarfs as well, if they've got lots of slayers and thunderers. But apart from that, it'll take on anything. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Anyway, that's the end of this one, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this kind of army. It's got a lot of utility in there that we just didn't really make use of in this battle, because we didn't need to. All I had to do was just chuck them in to fight, because it's easy. And we, you know, walk out of there with basically no damage. And just because you've got abilities doesn't mean you have to use it. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time, fuckers. Bye.